Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's a guy Adefemi Great here again, and today we are going to continue from where we left off in the last episode. So a quick recap, in the last episode we implemented the search bar, and today we are going to focus on implementing the tag menu. And going back to our Trello board, I've dragged this into doing. So here we have it, integrate tag menu. So the plan is to have our tag menu show up here. However, there are situations where we can have so much, and so as not to crumple everything within here, we can have this toggle here, such that when we click it, it shows the remaining tags. Not really the remaining, but every tag at a point. So in here, we are going to be showing 10 tags at a time. So every other tags left will just be shown once we click the toggle. So that's the plan. So with that said, let's go back into our code to implement this. So back in VS Code, let's locate our tag menu. So if you come back to the page, here is the tag menu, so we can close this out. So let's pull in all the tags from our server, and we've done something of such already. So if we go back to our special blog, here is a request to get something from our server. So we can make use of this as well. So let's copy it and come back to the tag. Let's look for it. Yeah. Paste it here. So first thing first, since we are making use of await, we have to change this to async. Okay, then let's import what's necessary. Then finally, let's change the type here to itag. So an array of itag. Then also this becomes tags. And from here, you can see that our tag is showing an error, and that's because whatever response we are getting here can either be the response or a none. So just for safety, let's have an empty array here. And now we can locate the .name version of it. So one thing we need to do is to get the endpoint for the tag URL itself. So let's go back to our browser. Let's come down here, or rather, let's come back here. And this is the endpoint for the tag URL. However, if we refresh this, the server is already down. So let's start the server again. So with the server up and running, let's go back here and refresh. Alright, so we have our tag lists once again. So this is the endpoint we need. Let's just copy this. Go back into our code and fix it. And with that, if we go back to our browser and refresh, we should have our tag lists. So here is the tags coming from the server, and this is showing everything at the same time. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have a total of 12 here. However, we want just 10. So to fix this, if we come back to our code, we can slice the array. So we can have .slice, then we start from 0 to 10, okay? And with that, we are only going to get just 10 of it. So if we count again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's what we want. So if we come back to our tag menu components and we check the page, we'll see that it's showing red, and I think we can guess what is happening. And that's because we've made this an async component. So to fix this, we just have to copy this and place it above the component, and that should be fixed. So we are good to go on that. So we have the first part of our process done, which is to have the tags served. So the next part is such that when we click on this, it should show all the tags. So let's get started on that. So back within our tag menu, and the process we have here is a server-based process. However, the process relating to our dropdown is going to be a client-based process. So the way to go about this is to have a separate component handling the dropdown process. And within that component, we are going to have the toggle as well as the dropdown. So let me go ahead and create the component for that. So I called it tag menu dropdown, and also I've just tried to flesh out the structure. Alright, so here is our structure, and for the tag menu dropdown component, we are going to require the tags as a parameter. So we have tags, and in here we are going to have tags. Then we get the I tag as an array, like that. So next we are going to return an empty tag, like that. And the first thing we want to have here is going to be the toggle. So the O control is going to be happening from here. So we need to import this. Let's do that. So we have that. So just before any other thing, let's import the tag menu drop down here. And this is going to require us to provide the tags. And we don't have to do any other check because the tags is going to be available anyways, or is going to be an empty array. So this is going to work. So let's go back to our browser and refresh. And every other thing still works as usual. So back in the tag menu drop down, we want to use the drop down component. And here we're just going to have the structure. So here we're going to have access to the wrapper ref. We're going to have access to the set open, set close, then get dropdown. So down here we are going to have the get dropdown, and we're going to return our content. So in here we want to loop through our tags. So we can have tags.map. So here we are looping through our tags. It doesn't matter how many they are. Then we are going to have it within a div, and I'll just give this item. Then the key is going to be index. Then we are going to have tag.name, and we close it out. What am I missing? So I'm missing a bracket. So for the toggle, we are going to have this as onClick, and here we are going to have set open. So we're going to be calling the set open function whenever we toggle it. And also to be able to handle such that when we click within the drop down itself, it doesn't close. We can wrap the drop down with a ref. So here we're going to have the ref, wrapper ref. So let's give the container itself a class name, and I'll call it tag menu dropdown. So before we do any other thing, let's go back to our browser and test and see what's going on. Okay, we have an issue. So the whole reason of creating this component is to mark it as use client, such that we don't have that issue. So we can call this use clients, and that should fix whatever issue we might have. And as you can see, that's working. So let's toggle this, and once we toggle, it's pulling up the existing dropdown. And I have an idea why this is happening. So if you remember, if you go back to our dropdown component, we are doing this with a class. So creating a new component is still using the same ID, and we are trying to get information with the ID. And the way ID works in CSS is that it's going to use the first one it could find. And that's why the search is coming up. So the way to fix this is to accept a parameter within the use dropdown, and I'll call this type of any. So wherever we are using the dropdown, we can provide any unique value here. So it's any value. And what we want to do is we want to come down to the ID. So we want to change this to a string representation, and we're going to have the type here. Then also when we are getting the drop down, we are going to do the same thing. We're going to have the type here. So that means the ID is going to be unique whenever we're using it. So coming back to the tag menu drop down, here can be tag menu or tag menu drop. Then if we come back to the search, here can become search. So that means the drop down is going to be unique to whoever is calling it. And that's all we have to do in regards to that. Let's go back to our browser to see what we have. So if we click on the search, it's working, and if we click on this, we have this. Okay? So this is flying around, and that's because we don't have anything to control it. So if you remember, it's positioned absolute. So to correct this, we can come back to our tag menu itself. We can make this a relative positioned item or element. So we copy the nav, come back to the style, then we locate it. So here is the nav, and we can make this position relative. So that means the dropdown is going to be absolute to the nav. So let's check it out, and as you can see, it's much more what we want. So the next thing is it's flying around, and if I could remember, this is because we didn't set a top or bottom value to our dropdown. So let's fix that. Let's locate the dropdown class. So here's the dropdown, and as you can see, no top or bottom. So what I want to have is top of 100%. So top of 100% means it's going to be at the bottom of the item itself. So if we check, this is now at the bottom the way we want it, and if we click on this, now we have this issue. So this is because items on your HTML content is kind of hierarchical. So it means this one has a lower hierarchy than this. So to fix this, we can just increase the hierarchy for the dropdown, and to do that, come back to our dropdown and make this a z-index of 1. And we are using 1 because we've not set any z-index, and by default there will be 0. So yeah, that should work. So as you can see, it's now on top of every other thing. So every other thing has a z-index of 0, but because this is 1, it's going to be at the top. And this one still works as usual. Yeah, we are almost there. So the next thing we need to do is to just grid things out, or float things, any way we want to call it. So let's locate the tag menu drop down. So the class name we defined, let's come back here. And in here, we're just going to have display grid, and grid template columns, we can have repeat 10 times 1fr. Let's see what happens with this. Okay, so that's not bad. So we have to place the text at center, and also we have to give necessary padding. So let's locate the item within it. And here we can have text align center. Then we can have padding from top to bottom, 10 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I think what we would need also is to have some border. So let's try some border. Border 1 pixel solid, then dark in white. 10%. Let's see. Yeah, then we have double of it. Yeah, maybe not necessary. I think an overing effect should do well for that. So here, whenever we hover on the item, so and over, we can just grade it background a little bit. So background color can have dark in white, 5%, and the cursor is going to be pointer. Okay. Yeah, I think that's much more like it. So here is the drop down for the tag menu, and here is the original one itself. So we have most of the logics. Let's just add some styling so that it looks like the one above. So we can just copy this information. I think that's all is needed. So here we put it within the item. And yeah, they should look alike now. More or less like it. So guys, that's all we're going to have in regards to the tag menu. It's not functional at the moment. That's going to be another task. But we have the layout, we have the structure, we have some of the functionalities. So coming back to our board, we can drag this to done. Alright guys, here is where we are going to be rounding up for today. If you enjoyed the episode, kindly leave a thumbs up. See you and bye.